What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple finally released iOS 15.4 just over a month after the release of 15.3.1, and along with this release we also got iPadOS 15.4, tvOS 15.4, HomePodOS 15.4, watchOS 8.5, and macOS Monterey 12.3. But in this video, we're talking all about iOS and iPadOS 15.4, and this is arguably the biggest update to iOS 15 since the initial release last year. So we're going to be covering more than 60 new features and changes in this update, along with talking about the performance, the battery life, the bug fixes, and if you should update right away or not. And as always, if I notified you of this update before your iPhone did, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I post these detailed videos every single time a new iOS and iPadOS update drops. All right, so before we get into all of the features and changes, let's go ahead and take a look at the size and the build number for 15.4. So you can see here, the size, it came in at 1.32 gigabytes on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. That size will vary depending on your device and the version you're coming from, but that was coming from 15.3.1. So let's go ahead and check out the build number for 15.4, settings, general, about 15.4. We can see the build number here is 19E241. And then if we scroll down a little bit to the modem firmware, you can see that has also been updated to 1.59.03. And before we even go back to the home screen, I can show you guys a minor change here in 15.4. So if you go under the limited warranty section right here, you will see a new Apple support card for the application, and it says get right there to download the application straight from your settings without having to go into the App Store like you had to on 15.3.1 and prior. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 15.4? And the first thing is the ability to download software updates over LTE. So previously, this was limited to just 5G iPhones. You were able to download software updates over 5G, but now you can do it over LTE. So if you have any iPhone that has cellular service, you should be able to download software updates starting with 15.4 using cellular data and not just Wi-Fi. Now, easily the biggest feature in iOS 15.4 is going to be the ability to unlock your phone via Face ID while wearing a mask. So if you go into your settings here and go to Face ID and passcode, you will see a new toggle here for Face ID with a mask. And if you turn this on, you will see this screen right here, which actually shows up for the first time after updating to 15.4 before you even get to the home screen. It shows this as part of the setup process, and you have the option to enable this before you even get to the home screen. But from here, it shows, use Face ID with a mask. Face ID is most accurate when it's set up for full face recognition only. And it says to use Face ID while wearing a mask, iPhone can recognize the unique features around the eye area to authenticate. So the cool thing about this is when you go to use Face ID with a mask, you don't even have to put a mask on your face. You just have to redo a Face ID scan. So let me go ahead and tap on Get Started and do a new scan. And that's it. You just have to do one scan and you're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my mask on my face. You can see here I have a mask on my face. You can probably hear it as well. I'm gonna go ahead and lock and go ahead to the lock screen. You might see this new prompt up here also that says look down to unlock, but let's go ahead and position it right at eye level, and you can see there it unlocks right away very quickly as if you're not even wearing a mask. It's extremely accurate and extremely impressive. And the best part about this new method is that you don't need an Apple Watch. The previous method to unlock your phone with a mask was that you had to have an Apple Watch on your wrist, but you don't need that. And also this is much faster than that method anyways. Now also you can add glasses. So if you wear reading glasses or prescription glasses, you can add that here as well to just be more accurate when unlocking your phone via Face ID. So you can wear glasses and a mask and your phone will still recognize you and unlock it via Face ID, no problem. Now, the only downside to this feature is that it only works on the iPhone 12 and newer. So if you have an iPhone 12 and newer, you can use Face ID with a mask, but if not, you will still have to use the Apple Watch method. Another cool feature in iOS 15.4 is called Tap to Pay. So this is a feature that's going to allow the iPhone XS and newer to accept credit cards and other digital wallet payments with a simple tap on the back of an iPhone, no additional hardware necessary. So this is huge for small business owners and like food trucks. You won't need those little square readers anymore. You won't have to tap your phone on those little square readers anymore. With this new tap to pay feature, you're just going to be able to simply tap your phone on another phone and be able to pay for, a good or service. So this feature is currently active in iOS 15.4. We're just waiting on third-party vendors to adopt it, and it looks like Stripe is going to be the first one to allow payments via tap to pay. So this is awesome. I cannot wait to see more people enable this payment process. Also in this update, we have 37 new emojis. So you can see all the emoji typed out here. We have the happy tears, we have the peeking, we have the melting face right there, which is my personal favorite. You probably saw that in the thumbnail of this video. We have the salute. We have the hands making a heart. We have multiple different ones right here. The pointing at you, I like that one as well. We have a pregnant man right there. We have the lip biting. We have a lot of different emoji right here. So you will start seeing these over social media, and you'll probably be texting your friends about these emojis as well and using them. So just another reason to update so you can access the new emoji and you won't get those little question marks when your friends send you the new emojis via iMessage. We also get a new wallpaper in this update. So if you go to our settings, wallpaper, choose new wallpaper, and then live, we have a new shade of green right here. So it looks very similar to this one right here, but we have a new shade of green in the live wallpapers. This is for the new iPhone 13, the green iPhone 13 that was just recently announced. Now we do also have iPhone SE 3 promotional wallpapers. These are not included with iOS 15.4, but I will include these in the description below. If you'd like any of these, I will leave those down there for you guys to download and put on your phone. I wish Apple would have included those in the wallpaper section here. We also have a new Siri voice. So if we go into our settings, Siri and search, and then down to Siri voice, under American, we now have a fifth voice down here, and here's what it sounds like.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
There's also a nice new feature if you take advantage of dual SIM. So if you have an eSIM and a physical SIM, maybe one for personal and one for work, you now get the option to select which number you want to use inside of the Messages application. So when you go to send a new message, you can see down here under the from, you could change it between personal and whatever your other, SIM is. If it's like a business line, you could change who it's from. So you can see that right there, which is nice. We have a big new feature inside of the Shortcuts application that I know you guys are gonna love if you run automations. So if you go into our Shortcuts app and then go down to automations, and we go to any of our automations right here, you can see that we have a brand new toggle down here for notify when run. So that means it's going to disable the notification when this automation runs. So I don't know about you guys, but for this one right here, when I want to change my wallpaper every single day, every morning I wake up with a new notification that shows that the shortcut ran and that my wallpaper changed. And it got annoying. It just clogged up my notification center. But now with this new iOS 15.4 toggle, I can turn that off. So I don't need a notification every single time my automation runs. And now we can disable that. Also, when you go to create a shortcut and you go to the actions right here, you will notice that nearly every system action has a new glyph icon right there. So take a look next to get dates from input and format date. You'll notice a lot of them as we go down. A ton of them have been changed here in 15.4. So let's go down. Append to Evernote now has an icon it didn't before. Generate QR code and pretty much everything down below that has a new look. You will just notice a ton of glyph icons have changed and look a lot better here in iOS 15.4, especially move file there. That icon looks so much better here. And speaking of actions, if you create a shortcut for the reminders application, you want to edit the tags as part of a shortcut action, you can see you can now do that. Whereas before there was no option to edit the tag via a shortcut. The AirPods pop-up menu has also slightly changed here in 15.4. So when you open up the top to your AirPods, you will see that we now have the Brandon's AirPods Pro, the title right there, more bold, and it also just takes up one line. Before, sometimes there would be a line break when it wasn't really necessary. So I just think it looks better when it's bold and just in one line like that. So just a minor change here with this new update. And then speaking of AirPods, if we go into our accessibility settings right here and then down to AirPods, you can see that the AirPods icon right there now has the AirPods Pro style instead of the AirPods Max style glyph. I don't even think that was AirPods Max. It just had some generic headphones, but now it shows the AirPods Pro as the AirPods glyph icon. And while we're on the subject of music, let's talk about some changes inside of Apple Music. So if we go to the music icon right here on our springboard and we haptic press on it, you can see we have two new options right here. So we now have play most recent, and play my station, whereas before in 15.3.1, we just simply had nothing. We just had a search button right there, and that was it. Also, if we go into the music application and go into a playlist and we start scrolling down on the playlist, you will see up top that the name of the playlist is now sticky on this bar right here, and it follows down with you as you go down the playlist, whereas before you could not see the name of the playlist as you scrolled down. So a minor change, but one that I like. Also, we have a new glyph icon. If we tap right here on these three dots, and if we look next to view full lyrics, you will see a minor change there in the glyph icon to the right. You'll also notice that we have a brand new option here for SharePlay. So now in 15.4, you can actually start a SharePlay without having to initiate a FaceTime call. So if you tap on this, it will start a SharePlay with whatever contact you choose, and it will start off by playing that music, together. You'll be able to listen to that music together. It's still going to be on a FaceTime call, but now you don't have to actually go into the FaceTime application and then go back into music and play that. You could do it a lot easier now in 15.4 and moving forward. Inside of Safari, we now have two new languages that we can translate. So we have Italian and traditional Chinese. So you can see here I'm on an Italian website. It's all in Italian. And if we go to the two A's right here and go to translate to English, you can see it works properly right here. It detects that it's in Italian and it translates it properly. Whereas in 15.3.1 over here, you can see there's nothing to translate this. Also, if we go into our settings and then to Safari, all the way down to advanced, and then down to experimental features, and then all the way down to the bottom, you can see that we have a new reset all to defaults button here in 15.4, which will reset all of the experimental WebKit features back to their default state. So sometimes it can be kind of hard to remember what you enabled and disabled because there are so many in here. So it's nice that there's now a reset all button down there at the bottom. We have a couple of new changes inside of the podcasts application. So if we go into a show right here, you can see where it used to say episodes or seasons, there is now a drop down next to that. And if you tap on that drop down, you can filter the episodes by unplayed, downloaded, played, or just all episodes. So before on 15.3.1, it just showed every episode right here and that was it. But if you only wanted it to show the unplayed episodes, you could have that right here and it will only show your unplayed episodes in the main section right here of the podcast, which is really nice. And then if we have a podcast that has seasons, if you tap on the little drop down next to season 3 right here, you can see that we could filter that by either season 1, 2, or 3. And you can see it just easily goes back right there and shows you everything from season 2, for example. Whereas before on 15.3.1, we just have to go down to the bottom and then go to see all 48 episodes and then kind of just see, yourself when it gets to season 2, and you couldn't really filter it whatsoever. There's also a very minor verbiage change under settings podcast. You guys know I like to bring you every single change, no matter how big or small. Under external controls, you can see there, it used to say skip forward/back. Now it just says forward/back. There's also a new sentence added down below that says, if an episode contains chapters, next previous will navigate chapters, then episodes. In the news application, if you go to the audio tab and then go down to the section where it shows all the audio stories, you can see it used to say previews for you. Now it shows audio stories for you. Listen to free previews. So it describes better what these articles are. Also, you can see we have these 3 little dots right here. And if you tap on that, it pulls up the contextual menu. Whereas before, there were no 3 dots. You had to haptic press on the story to see the same menu. And then if we scroll down to more to explore, you can see that is all brand new here. That was not there in 15.3.1. It kind of just shows more to explore, and it shows all of the different categories where you can see different audio stories. Whereas before, you had to go to see all audio stories and it would take you to this section right here. So it's a much better layout here in 15.4. In the notes and reminders application, you can now scan text from the application itself. So if you go to the camera icon right here in notes, you can see you now have the new option to scan text. You could not do that in 15.3.1, and the same goes for the reminders application. So we go into reminders right here, and if you tap on the camera, you can see we now have a new option here for scan text. There's also some minor changes inside of the stocks application. So if you go to stocks, you will see top stories right here, and you'll see that the layout looks different in 15.4. So they're more separated right here. They're sectioned off. There's a little bit more padding in between each story. We also have this contextual menu right here as well via the 3 dots. Whereas before, just like in the news application, you'd have to haptic press on it and it showed this whole preview and then it showed you that menu right there. So it's much easier to access that menu with those 3 dots and just looks better here in 15.4. Oh, and also you can see the colors and the font have changed here as well. There's also a new widget for the wallet application. So if you have an Apple Card, you can now get a quick glance at your card balance, how much is available, and also your activity, and you could change that as well. So if you haptic press on it and go to edit widget, you could change the period from weekly to also monthly and yearly. So you can get a quick glance at your spending right there via a widget. Speaking of the wallet application, there's also some changes if you tap on the little card icon up in the top right. So you can see it now says card information, whereas before it just said card number. And then under that in 15.4, it shows virtual card number. And then all the way down at the bottom, it now says additional card numbers, whereas before it just kind of showed your other card numbers right there. So if you go into this section now, in this update, it now shows titanium card number and your Apple Pay card number. We have some nice changes to the passwords feature right here. So you can see now we have the option to add notes to a password. So if you have a password and you maybe use different variations of a username or password, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to add notes for, you could add notes for each individual password that you have set that saves to your iCloud keychain. So you could change that right there. Also, you cannot save a password now in 15.4 without entering a username. So before, sometimes if you would be on a website and it would save your password, but it wouldn't save the username, you cannot do that anymore. It's going to ask you specifically to enter in a username along with that password that you used. Also new in 15.4 are multiple changes to the Magnifier application. So if you go into Magnifier right here, you will see instantly some changes to the glyph icons. You can see number 1, that the camera picker has been changed, the glyph icon, and then also when you tap on that, you can see right here that it's been changed from just showing this UI right here, where it just says back and front, and it just opens up to the side like that, to this new way of showing that menu, and it's much cleaner. And you can see we also have glyph icons for auto, close up, and front. So you can select the lens that you want to use to magnify something. Also, the magnifier line right here is thinner. You can see it was a lot thicker here in 15.3.1. Also, the plus and minus were thicker as well. They've thinned out a little bit here in 15.4. Also, you can see some extra padding in between each of these toggles right here. You now have to scroll over a little bit to see that last one right there, whereas on 15.3.1, they were a little bit closer together. Now, if we head back into our settings and go to notifications and then to scheduled summary, you can see down here that it's now changed from a daily notification average to a weekly notification average. Now, if we head down a little bit further into our settings and go down to the TV section and then all the way down to the bottom, you will see that we have a new section here for up next display. And if we tap on that, you can see you can now choose between a poster art or a still frame from that show or movie. So I'll show you guys the difference here. Let's go into the TV application. And you can see here, I was watching Breaking Bad and it shows the poster art for that show. But if I change this to a still frame, you can see it's going to show me the last still frame where I was in that show. So it's going to give me kind of a preview as to where I was in that show or movie. So it changes right there. You can see you can change it back from poster art or whatever you want. So nice new addition there inside of the TV app. If we head over to the iCloud section of our settings and go to iCloud and then to iCloud Mail, you can see this now shows up properly and you could actually go into this, whereas you could not before. And this, of course, is where you could set up your custom email domain if you have iCloud Plus. If you head into the App Store and tap on your icon up in the top right, you can see that we have a brand new section here for notifications. And if you tap on that, you can now choose specific notifications that you want to allow or disallow. So you can see there new features and updates and recommendations and offers. You can now choose what you want to receive or not. And if you have notifications disabled entirely for the App Store, you might see this alert right here, which is brand new for 15.4 as well. The visual lookup feature now works outside of the US. So this was exclusive to the US, where you could swipe up on an image and you could look it up right here. So you can see on 15.3.1, it did not give you the option to do that. But now on 15.4, it shows you lookup for places outside of the US. So you can see right here, it shows lookup, landmark, and you can see it will actually show something in Germany right here. So this is a monument in Germany, and it shows now properly. So this works for everywhere outside of the US. So Canada, Germany, places like that, you will be able to use this awesome new feature. And speaking of those who live outside of the US, those who live in the EU will now be able to add a digital COVID certificate to the health and wallet applications. So of course, I'm not in the EU, so I cannot test this, but it is working properly now in 15.4. Also in 15.4, there's a new prompt when setting up an AirTag for the first time. So you can see right here, this is the new prompt. This, of course, is in response to all of the headlines about people using these to stalk people and just kind of using AirTags for all of the wrong reasons. So it says, AirTag is intended solely to track items that belong to you. Using AirTag to track people without their consent is a crime, and it basically just tells you what AirTag is designed to do, and you have to agree to that before you get set up the AirTag and add it to your Apple ID. If you have a PS5 controller, the DualSense Adaptive Triggers are now supported on both iOS and iPadOS 15.4, along with macOS 12.3. And speaking of the iPad, we also have some nice changes in iPadOS 15.4 as well. So first up is a new control center toggle for keyboard brightness. So you can now change the brightness of your keyboard. Of course, you do need the lights to be off, so the backlit keyboard actually lights up, but you can now control that from a control center toggle, which is nice. And then under quick notes, we now have a corner gestures menu item right there. If you tap on that, you can see you have corner gestures where you can allow finger to swipe from corner instead of having to use your cursor. And then also you have the left and right corner swipes and what those do if you want it to be off, a quick note, or a screenshot. Also, if you go into settings and sounds, and then all the way to the bottom, you can see there's a new item down here called fixed position volume controls. And it says, when enabled, the volume up and down buttons will remain in a fixed position. When off, the buttons will dynamically change depending on the orientation of your iPad. So this was originally introduced on the iPad mini, and now it's made its way to all iPads with this new update. And then of course we have a new toggle for the brand new universal control feature. So if you go into your settings and then go to general, AirPlay, and handoff, you can see right here we have cursor and keyboard, and you can see it says in beta, that is the toggle for universal control. It should be on by default after you update. Now, as far as bug fixes go, we have quite a few bug fixes with this update. The first one has to do with PDFs in Safari. They are much smoother now. Not as big of a difference from 15.3.1, but if you're on 15.3 and earlier, there's going to be a massive difference in how smooth PDFs open in Safari. There's also a fix for messages. So if you click on a link in a quick reply window, before you would not be able to tap on that link, but now in 15.4, you're able to do that from the quick reply window. Also, the animations and third-party applications work as expected, and they don't revert back to 60 Hertz. So now you should see 120 Hertz animations in third-party applications after updating to 15.4. The storage bug should also be fixed for most people after this update. So if you go to your settings, general, and then to iPhone storage, this part up here on 15.3 and 15.3.1 would just hang, and people would not be able to see how much storage was being used and how much was left. It would just sit there and load, but now that should be resolved with this update. It should show up properly. There was also a bug where the keyboard would insert periods between typed numbers. So that has also been fixed here. So if you just type numbers, sometimes a period would be entered in between those, but now you can see you can type numbers just fine and there are no random periods getting entered. There's also a fix for the news widget in the Today view. So right here in the Today view, if I tap on this, sometimes in 15.3 or 15.3.1, it would not open up the article, but now in 15.4, you can see every single one of them opens up just fine. If you had issues with photos and videos not syncing properly to the iCloud photo library, that should be fixed here with this update as well. There's also a pretty specific bug with accessibility in the Books application that's been fixed. So it says, speak screen accessibility feature may quit unexpectedly within the Books app. So that will now not quit unexpectedly after updating to 15.4, which is nice. There's also a fix for the live listen feature. So if you turn this on inside of the control center and then you turned it off, sometimes it would not turn off. Even when you turned it off, it would just remain on and it would kill your battery life, of course. So that has been fixed now that when you turn it off, it actually turns off as it should. And then I did also want to point out that the cell connectivity is much better here in 15.4. I don't know what it was about 15.3.1, but my cell connectivity was much worse than it was even on 15.3. But now with 15.4, my cell connectivity is much better, at least for me on Verizon. Now, as far as the performance goes, performance is excellent here in 15.4. It is noticeably better than 15.3 and 15.3.1, really any other version of iOS 15. This is definitely the most smooth, most stable build of iOS 15 that we've had yet. Hardly any bugs. Of course, I'm sure more will come out as more people start using the software. We'll start hearing about more bugs. But for me personally, I really don't have anything to complain about here with the performance. And for those of you into Geekbench scores, you can see this is what I scored on 15.4, 1738 on the single core, 4810 on the multi-core. I have scored higher, but that's just what I scored for this video. Now, as far as the battery life goes, battery life has also been very impressive here with 15.4. So I don't know about you guys, but I had battery drain issues on 15.3.1. It is very rare for me to actually have real battery drain, but I had that on 15.3.1 for no apparent reason. But with 15.4, I've been testing this for a month now in the beta stages and the final release. I've not had any issues with battery drain. Not just that though, the on-screen time is also longer here with 15.4. I'm getting more on-screen time than I was with 15.3 or 15.3.1. So really no complaints whatsoever with battery life in this update. So with all of that being said, should you update to iOS 15.4? And I say absolutely. Not only are you getting a ton of new features and changes, of course you have the new emoji here as well. You don't want to have the question marks when your friends send you these new emoji. So you have all those, all the new features, the performance and the battery life improvements. You have security improvements, not to mention you have two amazing features that are not there just yet, the tap to pay feature and the digital driver's license feature. They're both in the code. They're not live yet. Those will be pushed live over the air, but they're both in the code for 15.4 as well. So just a ton of reasons, I think, to update to 15.4. If you're one of those people who always has bad luck with their phone when they update, you may want to just wait until I release my follow-up video where I can see any bugs that come out. But for the most part, I think 15.4 is going to be perfectly fine for 99% of people, and I think you should absolutely update as soon as possible. Now, you guys know me, I cannot finish off one of these videos without talking about what is next. I bring you guys videos on every single iOS version, so I like to look ahead and get you guys prepared for what's coming next. So next up is going to be iOS 15.5 Beta 1. So if you're a beta tester, you will be seeing iOS 15.5 Beta 1 released very, very soon. As far as a next public release, we should see an iOS 15.4.1 sometime between beginning and middle of April, if I had to guess, maybe even before then. But I don't see a 15.5 getting released until maybe early May. But of course, a lot of things can change. I always keep you guys updated over on Twitter. So if you want to follow me over on Twitter, that is linked down below. It is just at Brandon Butch. But don't expect any future iOS 15 update to be as exciting as this one. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is iOS 15.4 and everything new. Hope you enjoyed this very long video. If you did, I would really appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my iOS 15.5 coverage. And if you want to check out some other awesome videos, tap on the links at the end card right after this. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.